can't stand the sight of you leaving me. Let's just talk this thing over, baby, yeah. Can't you see the tears in my eyes? Baby, please don't leave me. Don't leave me. You're the meaning of my life now. Without you, baby, I would surely die.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Roger.
Hi, Yanis, Roger, Brian, and Ken. And again, hello, everyone to who's watching tonight. It's Let's Talk It Over. Once again, it's our 6th show already. Before we start, we are going to talk football and politics. But I wanted to briefly highlight something that's happening in Brussels right now. Ken, Brian, Yanis, and Roger, you've all signed a letter that was published in various languages today to put pressure on the Belgian government about a hunger strike that more than 400 undocumented workers have started in Brussels on May 23rd. So it's now been pretty much 2 months. Their health is deteriorating very quickly. And it looks like despite the pressure by organizations, by civil society, and the letter that was published today, the government sort of remained on its position about not negotiating and not doing anything much about it. So I will post a few links in the comments, but it shows that the state of Europe right now and the state of where we're at as sort of a human civilization has a lot to be desired with and a lot to be done with. And briefly, again, we're talking about undocumented workers, so people that have lived in Belgium for 5, 10, 20, 50 years, that are working, actually building the European Union, that are working building the metro stations, and that still have no papers. So that's a crucial issue that I wanted to briefly highlight now. Saying so, we're now going to talk about football and politics. So Euro 2020, 2021 just ended, and it's us tonight. Yes, 5 white men who are going to talk about football. And I wanted to briefly say something about Eduardo Galeano, the great Uruguayan writer, who apparently during the World Cup, so every 4 years, and that's a story, I'm not sure if it's entirely true, but apparently it could be, hung a sign to his door that said, "Closed for football." So for a month, he just didn't leave his house and then emerge again from his house. I wanted to ask the 4 of you, didn't emerge for about a month for Euro 2020? Ken?
No, I certainly emerged. I couldn't. I'm afraid I didn't have the time to watch all the games, and I think there's, for me, you reach saturation point quite quickly if you don't have a stake in who's going to win.
But you had a stake, right?
But I guess I probably, I guess I saw about a third of the games. All the way through, and I glimpsed the others, and it was fascinating. But I think watching a small television does have its limitations after time.
I think we should all club together and buy Ken a big telly so he can watch football like the rest of us do.
Can you get one for me as well?
And I'm really glad to hear that he entirely ignored Frank's last
Well,
question, and it was so long ago now, I can't remember what it was, but it was.
that's so long ago.
He did say, did he not, that he didn't watch most of the games, you know. Neither did I have to say, because frankly, I don't care. I care about the mighty Arsenal. I care about club football a lot. I did watch the England games, but I feel like I find it very difficult to identify with the national support. I really do. And I thought it was fascinating that, and I've only read this because I wouldn't have known just watching it on the telly, but that some of the Italian supporters, I'm told, booed the English players when they took a knee before the final. That is what I find really interesting about Euro 2020. Frankly, you know, when Saka missed that final penalty, I thought, oh, poor lad. And I did for a second or two think, why did he bring on Rashford and Sancho? You know, they hadn't kicked a ball. They were on there. They're about 12 years old, these boys. And what a terrible burden to put on them. They go out there and, you know, obviously, the Italian goalie, there should be rules against people being that fucking tall in football, in my view. I mean, you know, he only had to stick his bloody arms out to save a penalty, didn't he? In fact, the one that he missed at some... Oh, no, I'm thinking of a different game. It doesn't matter. I should stop rabbiting, except that I thought it was fascinating, the glimpse into the inherent primal disdain that is rife through all of our societies and that comes out so deeply and desperately in soccer. You know, you could sense a lot of the foreign. I thought in the Ukraine game as well. It's palpable how racist. I mean, we are too. The English are. Trust me, I'm English. I know, and Ken's upside down, but he's English too. And Brian, we know how racist we are, and we are very, 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 very racist. In you know, I'll stop now. So I know. Just a little bit more, just a little bit longer. But the Italians booing, when we did a Pink Floyd exhibition called Their Mortal Remains, and when we put it on in Milan for no good reason, it was actually because Michael Cole wanted to make a few quid more out of it. And it was a terrible thing to do because it was a shoddy facsimile of the great job that had been done in Exhibition Road at the V&A. They put on a Pink Floyd exhibition that was fantastic. Anyway, it doesn't matter how bad it was in Italy. I went to the opening with the drummer. Can't remember his name now, but and we did a press conference. Brian, you be nice. And we did a press conference there. And during the press conference, I said, I can't be bothered to talk about all this bollocks. You know, I don't care about this exhibition. This is what I do care about. We're all human beings and blah, 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 blah. And there was about 400 Italian journalists in the room. And I explained to them that they were all African. And it was fabulous to watch their faces. You know, you tell a fucking an Italian bloke, or woman, I think, probably, maybe the women are better, I don't know, but that they're African and they want to tear your fucking heart out, you know, and eat it with spaghetti or however they would do it. It would be delicious, I have no doubt, you know, maybe particularly during truffle season, like in late autumn. If you're going to tear my heart out and eat it, chaps, Alba, that would be my preferred sacrificial altar. And then now I will stop.
Brian, did you watch any game? I mean, you English, but you half Belgian as well.
Half
Did you
Belgian,
care
yes.
for any teams or?
You never told me that. Bloody hell!
Lucky I didn't say I'm half Italian.
Well, I've always thought that Frank was half bloody Belgian. It turns out that he is asterisk the bloody Gaul personified. Sitting up there. He's French. Anyway, isn't it interesting?
Yeah, but I support Arsenal.
That's true. All is
so.
So I don't like Ken, I don't have a proper television. I don't have a television really, and so I didn't watch many of the games, and I don't have a television not for ideological reasons, but because I would be a television addict if I did have one. I would watch any old shit that they served up, you know. So, which is what I do when I stay in hotels. I just watch television all the time. But I did watch. I watched 2 matches. I watched the Belgium match, and I watched 3, and the Denmark match, and the final. But I only watched half of the final because I had to go to a pub nearby to watch it. And you were quite right, Roger, about the racism of the English fans. They were absolutely awful. It was a terrible experience being in that pub. And
Oh, wow.
but what is worse about it is actually the racism wasn't so bad. It's this sort of arrogance that every fat middle-aged football fan thinks that he would know how to play this match better. And they're all screaming at the screen and saying, "Pass to the fucking cunt, you fucking stupid cunt." You know, that's all you hear through the whole game. Is that a particularly English thing to think that you somehow have God's gift of knowing how to play, even though you're 50 years old and twice as heavy as you ought to be?
Yeah.
You know, this sort of English arrogance of not recognizing that those people out on the field have some real expertise.
Yeah. And muscles.
And muscles.
And coordination and incredible skill.
Yeah.
The rest of us wouldn't dream about.
I have to say, I don't recognise this entirely, Brian. Amongst the people I know, I mean, I follow a small non-league club, and people are very respectful there and very friendly, and it's not racist. And I think it's, I mean, yes, there will be a small number of idiots, but football does seem to attract the noisy ones. But by and large, I mean, I've found the people who I've either watched the game with or talked to, I mean, by and large, fairly thoughtful, certainly respectful of the England manager, and very loyal to the players. But there's a noisy bunch. But anyway, I should step back for Yanis hasn't spoken.
Yeah, but you made Finding Eric or whatever, you know, and you come from up north. You don't live in the fucking smoke where he lives, and I believe to live. That, I mean, they are people in the south of England are a bit different. My granny was from the north of it. My granny is from Teesside, you know, and I was writing about her the other day because I've been writing my memoir, and both my grandmothers, my father's mother was from County Durham, and my mother's mother was from Teesside, and so I have some experience of the difference that exists between the people from the north of England and the people. I don't know if Greece is the same, Yanis, as if there are geographical differences between Athenians and Saloniki people.
Spartans.
Well, it is in England. Wouldn't you agree, Brian? A bit. I know you're Belgian, but
yes. Yeah, I only half count, but you are right. I think there's quite a difference, and it's a difference of warmth and welcomingness, of how much you want to include other people in your circle. I think the South tends to be a little bit more exclusive.
yeah.
But maybe enough of English imperialism. We should let Yanis speak. You know, let the Greek speak. You've invented sports, so you know you should know about football.
Yeah, we invented sport. Yeah, we invented everything.
They invented the Persian horse.
But not football. We didn't invent football. It was brought over by the British Army. Like a lot of other
Brits again.
I have some good stuff. No, look, I haven't watched a single match since Eric Cantona hung up his shoes, because I was a great Cantona fan, and I watched football up until then, and then I haven't watched. It's just like Formula One. The day Ayrton Senna died, I stopped watching Formula One. So, but for this Euro 20, I did something that connected me to my childhood, and that will be my entry point to our conversation tonight. I listened to Radio 5. I listened to the radio commentary for the final. And that reminded me, because, when I was growing up in Greece, there was no television. It's not that we didn't have a television in our house like Ken. There was no television in the country. Television arrived in Greece, even black and white, in 1969, 1970. Really? So I have memories of, growing up without television. And I remember listening to football commentary on the radio, which was fantastic. The best pictures come from radio anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So I tried to relive that. So I listened to the penalty shootout on Radio 5. It was fascinating. It was a lot more interesting than watching it on the screen. And that reminded me of that period in Greece, because when I was growing up in the fascist dictatorship. And I think that the one thing I want to bring to the conversation is the paradox that is football. And I'll bring it out with a story. It's 1971, around April, May, something like that. And a Greek team, Panathinaikos, for the first time and the last time, makes it to the final of the Champions League, which was called the European Champions Cup or something back then. And there was the semi-final was in Athens against Red Star Belgrade. And I remember because I was watching that, 4-1, we won, the Greek side, and I was watching that with my mother. And we were cheering. At the same time, a stone's throw, when I say stone's throw, I mean 300 yards from the football stadium, there was the torture chamber of the secret police, the military police to be precise, Essan. One of the people being tortured there was my mother's brother. We knew all that. We knew that inside the stadium there were the represented, the colonels of the fascist dictatorship cheering the team on. Like every good fascist dictator, they loved the fact that the Greek team was doing well. But this is the paradox. You have leftists. Football is the only game that brings together. It's a bit like Greek Easter or Catholic Easter. It's the only thing that can bring fascists and their victims together under the same roof. And that's why it's important, not to, paint football as, in black and white terms. Because the main thing, and I think this is something we are trying to do in this program, chat, whatever we call it, let's talk it over, highlight the importance of solidarity, whether it's with Palestinians, whether it's with the working class, whether it's international solidarity. And, we live in societies. You mentioned, Roger, you mentioned the North, the South, I mentioned Greece. But, every single society, whether it's Teesside, Devon, Greece or Belgium, we live in societies where we have a lack of solidarity. Men and women are deprived of solidarity in their lives. And football, is the last bastion of solidarity. It produces it in noodles, sometimes in a frenzied manner. And it's also very beautiful. It's a very beautiful game.
And pop music.
And religion.
Religion too, but religion is fading. And football is not fading.
Good.
Yeah, it's a good thing that the religion is fading.
I think,
but you would never, have 1 million people in the same space, unless of course it's what Poland with the Pope visiting. But I think the religion does not have the capacity to do that, which football can, and we saw that in the Euro. And pop music to a lesser extent, I think, Brian, today, because it's fragmenting with the internet and Spotify and so on. People are listening to completely different kinds of music. This sense of togetherness that you used to have in the big gigs and so on, I don't feel it anymore. I feel that yeah.
Did you? Well, something happened a couple of years ago that I think was really, really remarkable. Was that song Jerusalema? Do you know that song?
No.
Nobody of our generation knows that song.
Oh yes, I do.
Everybody under 40 knows that song.
I do. My daughter told me about it. Yeah.
Oh, it was an amazing thing, and suddenly all over the world, people are doing the dance to that song. Policemen or soldiers or nurses or dentists. It's the most extraordinary phenomenon, I think, and that suddenly gave me hope for a new future for popular culture.
What is it? Can you explain it? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a beautiful song.
Okay.
It's a song from...
Sing it. Come on, sing it.
This is where, if Frank was doing his job, he would pull it up. If that was Aaron Marte, he would have Ben Norton sitting beside him, and it would be there on your screen because you'd be going like that, and blah blah blah, and here it is, right, Frank?
I'm not aromatic.
I know you're not. It's all right. Don't worry, son.
I just listened to you guys.
It's such a beautiful song, and the singer is I think she's South African. She has a very beautiful sort of husky, low female voice. I would say she's even in the baritone register as a singer. And this song is a beautiful song, and everybody in the world loved it, it seems. And so suddenly you saw people all over the world getting together in groups to do this song, and there are thousands of versions of it on YouTube. It's really worth seeing.
Well, I'm going to pull it up.
You will allow me to say, sorry, Roger, you will allow me to contest what you're saying, Brian, because pop music has this capacity. But it doesn't, I mean, you mentioned the pub before, where the 50-year-old guy with a big tummy and, sweating and saying, think that he could do it better than the footballers. You see, this is the strength of football. Pop music doesn't have that. Everybody watching football, they imagine that it could be them. Because unlike basketball, they're too big. They're all like the Italian goalie, right?
Yeah.
In basketball, you cannot imagine that you could be playing basketball because you're not, 2 meters 20. But all these guys that are watching in the pub, and most people can actually identify with them because they're all their egos, people they could have been. When they see a bit leaner, a bit fitter, they think that with about 3 months of training, I could be like them. And that's a great strength. And if you throw the beauty, the art, the solidarity, the tragedy. I mean, think of the penalty shootout. That's an ancient tragedy in the end, without catharsis. But nevertheless, it's there. All these things create this sense, and also the fact that the working class, for the very first moment, it's a very rare moment. The working class feels that their culture is vindicated.
Yes.
That suddenly, even Boris Johnson and Prince Charles recognize their culture to be superior than the cricket culture, that rugby union culture, right?
I want to hear Ken.
Yeah.
But I think what you say, Yanis, is very true. I mean, the remark of Camus, Albert Camus, saying that all I know of morality and obligation I learned from football, because it brings all those elements together. And we're talking about Eric Cantona. I mean, when we asked him, what's your favorite moment from your whole career, expecting a glorious goal, what he said was it was a pass. It was a pass. And in other words, and when we first met Eric, we thought, well, he's a big star. He has the aura of a big star. Not at all. He was a team player, and he was instinctively a team player. And so I think the problem is when the press and the hype about football becomes about the racist element and the racist abuse that followed. But actually, I think you're right when you say it's a beautiful game, and there are many beautiful aspects to it. And it is to do with the solidarity of the team. It's to do with solidarity of the supporters with the team, and it's a celebration. And I think that's much stronger than the few idiots who shout from the terraces.
Yeah.
But are then taken up, and they become the story. But that's not the story. The story is
it's an important part of the story.
Yes, it's an important part, of course.
But so is the neo-fascist part, right? The British National Party, they also feel immense solidarity. Solidarity is a two-edged sword, right? Double-edged sword. Because, the Nazis had immense solidarity with one another. The BNP guys have solidarity. The football hooligans are extremely, they would die for each other. So, we have to recognize that football has all these features.
Yeah, sure.
But we need to...
Sorry.
I want to say something quickly sorry.
I think that's where Camus was right, and that you can learn all aspects through football. I mean, it clarifies all those different elements.
I need to say something briefly to to talk to you, Roger, about Aaron Mate and myself and stuff. I'm going to go one step above what Aaron could have done, because the thing is, so the singer of Jerusalem is called Nomsebo Zikode. And the funny thing is, you mentioned this song, Brian, but 2 weeks ago, Ronnie Casrills, our friend, Roger, contacted me and wanted me to put you and Nomsebo Zikode in touch, because she wanted to introduce the song to you and stuff. So I'm waiting actually for a message from her that I'll send to you. So if Aaron Mate can do better, just ask him.
Is that the woman who?
She's the woman singing the song, yeah. So you should hear from her in about, whenever she sends me a message.
5 seconds.
I'm sorry.
And that's the truth. I've got the email to prove it. But anyway, sorry, I interrupted Ken a bit, I think.
Well,
I wanted to say something about the boo. Sorry, go.
No.
The booing.
Yeah, no.
You mentioned the Italian fans booing England for taking the knee, but English fans also booed England for taking the knee, right? Yeah. And Bukayo Saka said today in a Twitter post, a long Twitter post, because he was racially abused like Rashford and Sancho. He ended his post by saying, "Love always wins."
Mm-hmm. Hey, Saka, my friend, Bukayo, how fucking cool would that be, brother, if that was true? This is what we are having this conversation down the pub about, is can love win? I.e. these disparate elements that are exposed when we all watch soccer together. There's the National Front who see it only as the Greek concept of sport as an expression of war, and that's what they see. Can we kill the other man or not? That's where it is. Whereas there is a new esprit, and it's an esprit de corps, which is our love for our teammates and extending beyond our love for our teammates, our love for everybody else. And that when the game, and it's only a game, and when it's over, let's go down the pub and have a drink, and Christ, you played well and whatever. And none of this racist fucking bullshit deserves even a sniff around the beautiful game. That's why I was wanting, when Ken was talking about Eric Cantona, I was wondering whether if Eric was in the game now, like Marcus Rashford is, I've no idea what Bukayo Saka's politics are, but at least to a man, all English Premier League players take a knee now before every single game, and they apparently are taking it now not for Black Lives, but for as an against racism. The whole concept that some of us believe ourselves to be superior to others because of what we've been taught, because we're European or what. So this
and let me add to this, Roger, that I actually like the fact that the racists in the stadium are booing the English players for taking the knee. The liberal demand that they keep these feelings to themselves and keep quiet, I find it appalling. If they are racist, they should boo, and then that gives us an opportunity to boo them, right? And, we need the conflict. We need the love, and we need the clash between ourselves and the fascists, even on the terraces.
All right.
What was it?
Throw a hand grenade in here, if I may. I want to throw a hand grenade in. If Eric was around, and I adore Eric Cantona, if for nothing else, for his really bad trumpet playing in Finding Eric. Because
looking for Eric
trumpet really badly, so I felt an extraordinary bond of brotherhood with Eric Cantona when he was playing the trumpet in that movie. Eric, oh my God! If only I was queer. Oh Christ, you're not allowed to say queer. Whatever. But Eric, if Eric was around now, would he join us, for instance, in the football community, to persuade FIFA or UEFA that we cannot play against an Israeli national side, just the same as we refuse to play rugby and cricket against South African national sides, when they were based on a whole racist ethos of this and that and the other and blah, blah, like national and club Israeli sides are now. I know it's a bit of a hand grenade, and I don't apologize because we are down the pub.
Don't apologize. I think that if we had a chance to chat with him for 10 minutes, he would.
You think so? What do you
Eric
think?
actually.
Ken, you knew him. You know him. You know the great man.
I do, but I mean, I wouldn't presume to speak for him.
Of course not.
Eric's his own man, you know. I mean, he's a very principled man, but he's a very modest man as well, and he doesn't air his opinions all the time. So I wouldn't presume to speak for him. He's a very principled guy, though, so I think you can imagine what he would say. I want to throw something else in. I mean, there is a very strong radical tradition in football as well. You know, you think of a number of groups of supporters get together, and I mean, there's a food bank collective across different clubs. You know, and people like the great Bill Shankly had a quote, and I can't remember it now exactly, but it's he believes in everybody working together, everybody having a share of the reward. That's how I see football. That's how I see life. You know,
it's the reason why I support Liverpool. Bill Shankly. I could say, "Come on, you Reds," and mean it both in terms of football and in terms of politics.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But in all the right wing press always loves to highlight the racism, the right wing attacks, the right wing hooligans. There is a radical socialist element in football, and don't let's underestimate it. There's the whole business movement towards community ownership of football. It was driven by a political belief in public ownership and common ownership, and the FC United that came out of the Manchester United when they were taken over by the Glazers, and they say Glazers, in opposition to them, was driven by people who had a history of socialism. You know, so there is a very benign, positive, community orientated element amongst football fans, and you know that it gets overlooked because the right wing are obsessed by the right wing press, obsessed by the right wing. But let's not overlook that.
I mean, one very interesting club in that respect is Barcelona, who've always been a sort of socialistly ethical club, and do all sorts of interesting community things within Barcelona. I wondered. I asked a friend of mine recently if he knew if there was a book about that club, because I would love to read it. They have a very highly evolved sort of socialistic principle, as far as I can tell.
And Barcelona is owned by the fan, right? The fans actually own Barcelona Football Club.
That is completely true, and that's why I always supported Barcelona amongst the Spanish teams. But remember, this cooperative joined those bastards that were trying to create the Super League. So it just reminds me of Robert Owen's form of socialism. We create a little socialist oasis here and there, and we don't fight capitalism generally. This is why I was never an Owenite, and that's why I was a Marxist, because you cannot, in an archipelago, in an ocean of capitalist exploitation, create a little oasis from capital, a cooperative oasis. Even if you create it, then very soon, either it becomes like the TSB, remember the Trustee Savings Bank that became part of Lloyd's, or it becomes like Barcelona. Despite its ownership structure, it joins the Glazers, and the Liverpools, and so on, and the Milans, and into the Super League.
Yeah, but don't you think that every time something like that happens, it tells people that something like that is possible, and it makes it more easy for instance, in Spain also, you have the biggest cooperative in the world, as far as I know, Mondragon, that huge cooperative.
Okay, my turn to throw a hand grenade to follow Roger. Do you know what, for me, the best socialist model in football is? NFL, American football. Think about it, instead of the cooperative model of Barcelona. Here you have a championship. I mean, I never watch it, it's crap. But if you look at the political economy of it, you have a championship where you have a salary cap in order to introduce equality between teams. So you cannot have the good teams overspending the bad teams. And the most socialist principle possible, the best rookie player is obliged by the regulations of the league to join the worst team in order to strengthen it. And that was invented in the United States. This is, central planning. It's an understanding that the quality of the game depends on restricting the market forces,
Yes.
and on strengthening the weakest teams by forcing the best players not to have a private choice. So
you know why that hand grenade? I'm going to leap on it now until it goes off. Okay. But obviously the reason is so you can screw as much money out of the pockets of working people in every single city, and you don't get, like we do in England, for instance, the major cities in soccer have the major teams, and they're all owned by foreign owners these days. Nothing is owned by anybody who's faintly English anymore, as far as I know. So whatever. But I suspect that the NFL didn't sit around and decide that what they wanted to do was create something that was egalitarian.
No. They were just smart entrepreneurs.
Everybody interested enough to shell out their money every Saturday.
Yeah, but you see,
to watch this ineffably boring effing game that they play.
But okay, you and I don't like
selling. They need.
But Roger, the point here is this: here you have hard-nosed capitalist pigs understanding that in order to have an interesting game, closely close games, you need to reward, and you need to strengthen the weaker side, and you need to impose a salary cap on the rich teams. This is a capitalist.
This is fucking Huxley. This is Brave New World. This is handicapping the athlete.
It's not. This is the welfare state. This is the welfare state. What the welfare state does, it taxes the rich and gives it to the poor. That happens within a hugely capitalist NFL. And what is interesting is that the spillover is that these guys make their money there and then take their money and come to England, where there is no such quasi-socialist scheme, buy teams. They can then purchase all the good players, whether they are Russian oligarchs or the Glazers, and then they completely dominate the team. And the little teams like, Wolverhampton Wanderers and so on stand no chance in hell of ever winning anything.
How?
I'm sorry about Mowgli. He disagrees. I don't disagree.
I think Brian wanted to talk.
I just wanted to say that within football itself, there's a rule called the offside rule, which is a little bit like what we're talking about. If you think about it, the offside rule is a completely artificial construction. And it's just to prevent the game becoming stupidly boring, because if you didn't have an offside rule, everyone would just stand at each end of the pitch by the goal and wait till the ball would play, It would be a very boring game. So I think within football, you already have that tradition of understanding that you have to make certain rules in order to keep the game fascinating. And I think Yanis is right, actually, but maybe that was a kind of intuitive grasp of things by the NFL that they would end up with a very boring game otherwise.
They've ended up with a very boring game anyway.
Ken has got his hand up.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, football is much more than the Premiership and the big clubs. If you see football among smaller clubs, as I do, lower leagues or non-league, even semi-professional and professionals who earn, an average wage, a lot of these problems don't exist. And in fact, clubs supporters have huge loyalty to players. Obviously, we all know. So the idea that they might be whisked away, goes against the enjoyment of having a relationship with a player.
You're right, man.
And it was interesting. We did a little film about a non-league club and went in the dressing room, and I expected it to be quite low key, and not so passionate as as you would expect at the big clubs, but not a bit of it. Not a bit of it. I mean, it was as intense, even though these were players who were in, might have been a brickie or a building worker or whatever, or a work on the trains during the week, but their passion for it and their dedication and the seriousness with which it was taken was terrific. And the passion they showed and the relationship with the fans and the meeting them in the bar at the end of the game. And there'd be an award for player of the game, player of the match and so on. And the experience is as intense, but in some ways it's stronger because you're closer to the pitch.
Yeah.
You have a relationship to the team. You follow them year after year after year. I mean, people go from they started children and they ended up, in just before they kick the bucket. So that it's a lifelong commitment, and that is the glory of football to me. It's not the extravaganza of the very rich clubs. It's the vast majority of clubs and the vast majority of supporters, and the intensity of that experience is extraordinary. It's a real gymnasium of emotions because you go from extreme success to disaster, within minutes, and it's extraordinary and quite unique, I think, in experience.
Frank sent me this morning.
Yeah, I wanted to show it actually.
Well, go and fucking show it then.
I can't show it. Oh, Ken's gone now. Look, Roger, what have you done?
Well, no, you were going to show it. I can't.
No. I was. I sent it to you, Brian. It's Roger playing football.
Yeah, I know. I saw it, but I can't. I don't know how to show it.
Yeah, that's great. We can see it now. So Roger is the one doing the dirty tackle, dirty tackling.
I'm very impressed by Roger's very, very full thigh muscles.
Yeah, no, I was.
I said to my missus this morning, that is where our dog gets its thigh muscles from. It's half pit bull, and she's got these amazingly powerful thighs.
I was wondering about those thighs as well. I was like, is it photoshopped? I mean, that's too old to be photoshopped, right?
How dare you say I'm too old to be photoshopped? You fucking Frenchmen living in Brussels are all the same. Nothing but snide comments about us English guys.
No, but I was very impressed. What was this game? Was it like you playing football, or was it just
it would have been a Pink Floyd 11 of roadies.
Oh, wow, okay.
I can't remember the other blokes in the band, but whatever. And against a French team of journalists and.
So you lost, right?
And it was probably,
who won?
Guy de Maupassant and people like that. Actually, Guy de Maupassant was a fine left back. He was a bit old at the time. I could rings round him with my thighs, whatever. But Simon de Beauvoir, great centre half, very good in the air.
Hey, I want to say something about football and politics, and I want to talk about the NBA, the NFL. The thing is, since Black Lives Matter arrived, we've seen lots of African Americans at the NBA level, NFL, take a stand, in terms of politics and stuff. And I was always like raging about footballers not saying anything, just saying at the end of the game, he passed me the ball, I shot, we scored, thanks to Reebok and Adidas. But in the last few years, this has completely changed in the last few years. I wanted to briefly comment on Cantona again. Cantona is actually part of the Hoping Foundation, with Carmen Abulsi and Bella Freud. And he's done a few things on Palestine. He was actually supposed to join us in Barcelona for the Russell Tribunal in 2010. So he's quite politically active, and I guess on the right side. But what about in the last few years, we've seen Pogba tweet about Palestine, carry a Palestinian flag on the pitch, right? We've seen the Leicester City football players doing this as well. And Owen Jones in The Guardian today or yesterday wrote something. He said that instead of a trophy, England's national team have inherited something far more precious, the mantle of the official opposition. What do you think about that? I mean, those young players have been amazing.
I missed that. The mantle of what?
The official opposition in England.
Yeah,
Official
I mean,
opposition.
he's
was
quite
very
late to that, Frank.
Sorry.
Sorry. I mean, he's quite late to that. I mean, people have been talking about Marcus Rashford being the leader of the opposition for some time, and I think what people respond to is just a clarity of saying these situations are intolerable, and that's what Marcus Rashford's done. It's what others have done, and I think the link between what has developed over the years is the link between, well, maybe it's always been there, but become more highlighted recently, is the link between the players and the club and the local community, and they express it, and they're working class lads, and they lived it, and they live in the world, so they see that connection, and no, I think there's something to be said. It also reflects on the absence of a CS opposition, because Starmer is feeble in the extreme when it comes to the big principles. So to have a young lad, express the broad principles very clearly, people respond to it.
What was very interesting, I think, was that Boris Johnson and Priti Patel had to very quickly backtrack when they realized that the mood of public opinion wasn't on their side at all, because their initial reaction to the taking the knee thing was that it was, awful and
To join the Telegraph in lambasting them. Yeah.
yes, exactly. And in fact, they've completely been defeated on that, I think. And that was actually the good thing about the publicity given to the racism, because it showed that Patel and Johnson weren't on the same side as everybody else.
But let's not get carried away. Yes, football is a hotbed of working class values, always has been from the very beginning. The New England team is clearly projecting an image that progressives would like Britain to have, which it doesn't have, but progressives would like to have this image of the diverse, the team that is society that's taking the knee and making amends for racism and so on. But that's not the reality. That is an aspiration for progressives and for the working class. But it's not a revolutionary movement, football. I heard people telling me it's the last left-wing movement, football. It is not, because to the extent that what it does, it creates a soothing feeling for progressives and for the working class, which at the same time, blunts any organization to change things. It's a bit like, the hope that the British working class had that the Queen would drop in for a cup of tea. It does not create a movement for overthrowing the monarchy and overthrowing the established order. So, it's a paradox. I've been saying from the beginning, it's a paradox. We have the best and the worst. We have fascism and we have extremely radical politics. It is a fantastic opportunity to recover a sense of solidarity and working class values, but on its own. It's not a class for itself. It's not a revolutionary movement. We need to do a lot of work.
It's a game.
It's a game.
Essentially. And by the way, even from the beginning, it was not egalitarian or it was invented in the British public school system, and football was played exclusively by public schools for I don't know, 50 years or something. The FA didn't actually come into being until 1875 or something, and it was based upon an amalgamation of a collection of different rules from different schools. Right. And so the rules that were extant at rugby, for instance, were different than the rules that were extant at Eton. And the game that they played that developed from the war game in Eton became association football. And rugby went off and had this silly game with an ovoid ball where you handled it, And so that's where it comes from. It comes from what do we do with these boys who are locked up, you know, in their dormitories all night to keep them healthy?
Okay, I mean, all sorts of things have strange origins, but once the working class took it over, then the rugby guys had to
Yeah.
invent another game
No,
to
you're-
differentiate themselves from the riffraff.
Yeah. Yeah. Ow, shit. I just banged my knee. No, you're right, obviously, about that. What I'm interested in, and which is why a few weeks ago I went, I'm going to start a movement to get Israel kicked out of UEFA and FIFA or whatever. I'm interested in the idea that somewhere hiding within the masses of the people who love football are enough of those masses to make a difference politically in the world that we also inhabit when we're not watching football, which is a world that is based upon our feeling that people, human beings, Homo sapiens, all of them should have basic human rights, and that is even more important than Millwall, you know. That's all. And that really interests me. Could we find a Marcus Rashford, assuming that Eric Cantona is, you know, ridden off into the sunset or whatever? And I don't know if he ever got involved in the Russell Tribunal or the things that, you know, we've all been involved in since. I don't know, but is there a Marcus Rashford out there? We know that he likes distributing food to poor people in Manchester, but is he interested in human rights or not? You know, how much does he care about it? And how much?
Well, it's not enough for him to be interested in human rights. He must also make the connection of apartheid with Israel.
Yeah,
you know, and this is not a connection that people make automatically. You know,
I missed that. Sorry,
I think that. Sorry, Yanis.
that's okay. Ken wanted to come in.
Oh, shit.
No, all I said, Roger, was that it's not enough for somebody to be interested in human rights. They also have to make the mental connection between Israel and apartheid. It's not clear to most people that there is an apartheid state in Israel because they've not been informed of it. This is why I said that, remember, I said that if we had 10 minutes to have a discussion with Eric Cantona, then we would turn him. If he needs turning, maybe he doesn't need turning.
Let Ken.
Yeah, I don't think he does. Yeah, Ken.
I'm sorry, but my reception is very bad, and I keep losing the pictures and not hearing what people are saying. But the point I wanted to make is, I think we're falling into the trap of thinking about the stars and thinking about the big games. Football itself, every club is an access to working class activity. There's many community activities. I mean, at our club there's a group, there's a charitable element. I mean, I hate charities, but there's a community element which gives is involved in the food banks. It's involved in
bloody hell. Roger, you need to buy Ken a proper Wi-Fi connection, not a TV.
Both.
But I want to say,
sending in that fashion to Ken. He can afford a fucking microphone if he wants.
But he needs to know how to plug it.
He's back.
There you are.
So I've lost you. Yeah, I mean, every club, most clubs have this connection to working class life, and the players have a presence in the community because they are players. They go to school, and once they're involved in the food banks, then the question is, I mean, if you're political, you can then be part of the discussions and say, now, why do we have poverty? Why do children need food banks? Yes, we're helping them. We're pleased to help. Why are we having to do it? And you're into a political discussion. And football is the hub for this, because people will come to football. They enjoy training with the players. It's a great leisure activity, very benign. Teachers like it, nutritionists like it because you can talk about diet. So there's those benign benefits. But if there's a political element, then you can key into the political debate, and then it connects, you know. So I think that our obsession with the stars and the big clubs is is we often miss the possibilities in every town, wherever there's a club, because clubs can connect. Clubs bring people together.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I mean, also, in Australia, for instance, the Aboriginal kids get connected and find ways of expressing their political views, their individuality, their aspirations through Aussie rules football. So, sport plays that role, team sport in particular, and it's we must not either overestimate the revolutionary value of team sport or underestimate it. This is the hard part, to get it right.
But everybody needs practice, So I think a lot of these things, like I think dancing and community singing and all that sort of thing, it's all practice in how to be sociable, because the whole emphasis of capitalist society has been to stop us being sociable, actually, or to encourage our atomization, to make us into individuals.
To make us tired.
To make us what?
Tired.
Yes.
Tire us out. So when we've finished our 14-hour day climbing a fucking chimney, when we're 12 years old, we're tired. We're not
to make us sad bastards. That's what they are trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. Ti megalo skilo aquí, yeah?
He wants to practice his Greek now. He just admired the size of my dog.
Yeah, I'm getting worried about these big thighs and admiring the size.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
We need more women on this show.
But I mean, we've gone to 1 hour. Oh, Ken's gone again.
Ken.
Oh.
The disappearing Ken.
Oh, he needs to. I don't give a fuck about the camera. It's his microphone. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't hear what he's saying.
No, I know.
Here he comes. Quiet.
Upside down.
You were upside down, Ken. That's why we were laughing.
And sort of re-entering the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, re-entry. Yeah,
like Elon Musk and.
Oh yeah. But I mean, we've gone for about an hour now. One thing I wanted to say about footballers, for me, I'm not really maybe expecting Marcus Rashford to lead a revolution, but they are the idols of millions of people. And when Paul Pogba says like, "Oh, I'm wearing these Nike shoes," like thousands of people actually buy the Nike shoes. So the day Pogba and Rashford start to talk about Palestine and about social issues in England, potentially millions of kids will, for the first time, hear about, wow, this is happening. So maybe it's not about them being like Che Guevara, but it's them through the social media and stuff, potentially, lighting a bulb in people's head or young kids' heads. But maybe I'm too optimistic.
Well, it may be if one of them stood up and said, "I am not wearing Puma shoes," because BS says that Puma are blah, 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 this and that, and they're beyond the pale, and you must boycott all Puma football shirts and this and that, the other. Well, that would be something. That is something, and that's big, as you say.
But it will take time. I think that was Yanis said, it's about education. And I think, you start by saying, food banks are not the norm in England, and it sort of creates something that then could potentially lead you to saying Israel is an apartheid state. I think it's just a bit of a seed, in people's heads, That's what I hope anyway.
Frank, if the only thing that the 4 or 5 of us have done here this afternoon is bar Yanis point out that people don't know that Israel is an apartheid state. How can it be that nobody knows that?
Because nobody tells them.
Yeah, well,
and anybody who tells them gets demonized and destroyed. That's why we need this pub. And many other like this one.
Yeah, of course.
I think we're going to have to stop because Ken's got like something to do in Rome from Bath, right? You've got this big thing with Rome, right? A film festival or something.
Yeah, I just hope it's better reception. I don't keep disappearing into the ether.
Hey,
but the Italians anyway, so yeah.
I want to ask Ken a question. Can I please? Just one question.
Go on.
What is that pile of books that
go
fat bloke's carrying over your shoulder? Behind your over your right shoulder. There's a fat bloke.
I don't know.
What are they?
It's I don't know. It's an old print of a guy called John Nicholson, and I know a John Nicholson, but it's not the same one. And it's he's carrying a pile of books, so it's just quite friendly, really. It has no significance apart from that, Roger.
Well, I'm glad I know now. All right.
So, Roger, when are you coming to Greece? Brian is performing on the 4th of August. Are you joining us?
Is he? No,
Yeah.
4th of August.
Herodion, Athens, on the foot of the Acropolis.
Can I watch it?
No, you've got to come and join us.
It's in the amphitheater.
Yes, it's in the amphitheater. Yeah.
What's he going to do? Is he going to play his banjo? What are you doing, man?
Come and find out.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
you have
maybe I
to
should.
He's a very modest man, so I'm going to advertise it. 4th August, Athens, Herodion, by the Acropolis Auditorium.
Yes.
Brian and Roger, right?
That's
Right.
right.
Sorry, I don't know.
Lots of new music. Never before.
There.
That could be a warning. Okay,
So,
I've got to
we're
go.
gonna have to stop it anyway because it's 1 hour and 5 minutes. I mean, it's been very, very instructive. We've learned that Roger's thigh are not photoshopped. That Roger and Yanis hate the NFL, right? And
But are very impressed by the political economy of it.
yes, and
I
so
would not waste my hatred on something as insignificant as the end.
Oh, I have infinite amounts of it, so there is no scarcity of it.
anyway.
Just like love, of course, right?
We off now. Everyone's off. It's summertime. We'll probably be back in September. Thanks everyone. Thanks Roger. Thanks Yanis. Thanks Brian. Thanks Ken. Enjoy your time with the Italians in Rome. Hopefully they won't boo you. Bye bye everyone.
Thanks.
Ciao, guys.
All right. Cheers. Bye, Yanis. Bye. Cheers, Roger. Bye bye.
La soledad del pajonal al corazón se iguala desde aquel día en que mi longuita se fue huyendo. ¿Para dónde marcharía esta longuita cuando volverá? Han pasado ya 6 cosechas, en el campo solo hay raspa.